Hello, friends, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday Inspiration. My name is Fernanda Torres. I'm with Dr. Linda Marquez, and today is all about sleep. We are going to cover everything that we need to know about getting a healthy and beautiful and restful night every night, and how and why that is important for our health, what the health consequences are, and tips about how to get a better night's sleep in a natural way. Dr. Linda, how are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Always look forward to our Wednesday show. So I think we'll be able to help a lot of people because sleep is definitely an issue with a lot of people.
It definitely is, and it's an issue that I've experienced as well firsthand. And it's getting to the point where I fall asleep, and even if I sleep 6 hours, I wake up rested the next day, and I'm ready, and I think a little bit more clear. And I think that's the main thing that I've noticed from when my sleep improved, when I started doing a little bit more natural things to fall asleep faster and fall asleep. And it's not only fall asleep faster, but it's how to get more rest as you sleep, right? Because you can sleep 6 hours, and if you're not resting for those 6 hours, you're going to wake up and you're going to feel so exhausted. And that's probably what happens to a lot of people, right? I have patients, so many patients coming to tell me that they suffer from chronic fatigue, tiredness. They feel so tired from the morning. And I'm thinking to myself, well, how many hours do you sleep, right? I ask them, how many hours do you sleep? Well, I sleep 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, but I wake up and I'm so tired. And I'm sure a lot of people can perhaps feel connected with that. It used to happen to me too. And I used to think, how is it possible that I'm sleeping well? Supposedly, I thought I was sleeping well, but I'm still not feeling rested.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of, as we get into some of this, there's a science behind sleep, and there's a lot of research out there, and people think, one of the common things I hear, and I used to say this when I was younger, and it will catch up with you, is, how can I get less sleep? Because people want to get less sleep. They're like, I want to only get 4.5, 5 hours, 6 hours sleep. And that'll be good because I have things to do. Been there, done that. And people don't realize that your body functions better at 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep a night, of quality sleep. So we'll cover some of the research behind all that. But I wanted to share some of the stats. I was on a TV show and we talked about sleep. They wanted me to come on and talk about sleep. And it was, they were just so intrigued with some of the numbers, the stats of, why people aren't sleeping. And even when I give sleep seminars, I mean, it's packed. I was just like, I didn't think that many people would come to this seminar, but I realized there were a lot of people having sleep issues. So women are more common than men. So I pulled out some of my old stats here, and they're probably I would think at least higher, from the last time I looked these up, but at least 60 million Americans are suffering from chronic or intermittent sleep disorders. We spend about 1/3 of our life sleeping, and there's a reason for that. And a lot of people don't realize how sleep can actually, it plays a really crucial role. And with people that are trying to get healthy and lose weight, it's more important than diet and exercise. So that's just really insane. And also, there was some of the research just showing 150 billion a year. The sleep deprivation cost is an estimated $150 billion a year because of higher stress and reduced work productivity. So that's pretty high. And then when you look at some of as far as the stats is what medications are prescribed, and you would know more than that because I don't prescribe any drugs, but Ambien, Lunesta, Sonata, antidepressants, and 10 years ago or 14 years ago, it was a $3.6 billion business where there was spent on prescriptions. That was in 2006. And then also back at that time, 14 years ago, Lunesta had spent 298 million on advertising just for sleep issues.
Wow.
So that's huge. And I'm sure those numbers with everything going on in life right now,
They're much higher.
they're definitely, I would have to say probably in the 300 something million, at least what's for marketing and the money that's being spent.
I
So
agree. I agree.
it's a
I've
huge issue, you know?
I've seen it so much more too since COVID and the
Yeah.
pandemic and everything started. It's been probably, I mean, a problem that it's propagated. It's been intensified more because of all this crisis and everything that we're going through.
Yes, yes. And for sure, we'll give people some strategies, you know, wanted to see, you know, give them the stats, but also what is happening during sleep and, you know, what's interfering with people's sleep, you know, and give them some strategies like what can you do? Because
Right, right.
you can do all this and, you know, and sleep is important, you know? So I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
So I do want to cover some of the medications too, if that's okay with you, just to give people an overall sense of what the medications do and the side effects and everything, and why I don't think medications for sleep are a good option, even though I prescribe them, even though I have used them in the past when I used to have so many problems also falling asleep and everything. I've used them, I prescribe them, I'm very familiar with them all the time. And I still, when I prescribe, and I still give the whole spiel to my patients as of why it's probably not the best or the healthiest choice, right? Maybe in a short-term basis, if something's going on, I can totally understand if something's going on. But on a chronic term, perhaps you don't want to be stuck taking up a medication for sleep.
Yeah.
So if it's okay with you, I do want to cover just the basics of different classes of medications that are commonly used. And if someone in the audience is taking a medication, and you know, you can learn something from what you're taking. A lot of times patients are prescribed something and they don't ask any questions, they don't know what it's for, side effects or anything, so it may be beneficial as well.
Absolutely. If you want to mention some of those, that would be great. Just kind of give people what's the, you know, what's common, what are some of the side effects, you know, because there are natural ways. Yeah,
right,
there are natural ways to, you know, to mitigate those, you know, sleep issues and so forth. So.
So what happens to the body when we're sleeping? There's so many things going on. And one of the major things is everything kind of rests. It's kind of a time to reboot, perhaps, to you relax, and your immune system kind of replenishes at night, and your brain also kind of just stops, not stops working, but it's kind of like a break that we're giving the break. It's a break that we're giving our body. But while we're taking that break, so many things are going on in our bodies that are important, right? For concentration, for health overall, for our immunity, and so many other things that happen at night that makes sleep not only important to wake up and feel just full of life, but in general, in your health, it's important for health too.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, sleep, people don't consider sleep is a very active process. Just like, you know, your days are split up in, okay, I have 8 hours of sleep and I have the rest of the day to get things done. But what you're doing in those 8 hours is really important. There's something called the lymphatic system, and it's to clean out the brain. And if people are suffering from degeneration, you know, brain health, it's because they're not getting enough rest. And it is immune cells are being produced during that time. Fat burning is happening. You're cleaning out the liver. You know, same thing with your GI tract. So during that time, there's a lot of regeneration with growth hormone being, you know, produced. So you need that while you're sleeping. And, you know, it's a very, very active phase. And people don't understand that. And it's so important with the gut being repaired, the hormones being balanced. And we have to really get our sleep dialed in. Yeah, for sure.
Just in the same way that we feel that we need to go to sleep when we're tired so we can rest and wake up fresh the next day, the same thing is happening internally, right? Everything in our bodies needs that same rest. It needs to slow down and kind of replenish and recuperate and everything and kind of refresh for the next day. So it's equally as important to feel rested as it's important for your body to kind of just regenerate and continue with with everything that goes on the next day.
Yeah, for sure. And then, some of the stats are showing that when you're not getting enough sleep, one, your creativity goes down.
It does.
Two, your performance as an athlete goes down. And I think we all need to consider ourselves or look at our life or consider ourselves that we're an athlete in this life, in this world. And then if you look at that, it's like, okay, if you change just your perspective of how you're showing up every day, it's like if I'm an athlete in this world, which we all are, and we're partaking in this game of life, so to speak, then don't you want to come out showing up 100% and giving your all on a daily basis? So, I mean, we talk so much about, what you eat, how you think, but sleep is just as important because it does, blood pressure goes up if you're not getting enough sleep. There's studies behind that. Sleep and creativity, that goes down. Also, athletes, they need to have more sleep because they're pushing and pushing and pushing their body every single day, maxing out on it. So they need more than the 7.5, 8 hours sleep. They actually probably do better on 8 and 9 hours sleep because they need, that's what they do for a living. They're just all out all the time. So I think people just really need to understand that. Other things that are going on during sleep, your gut is being repaired. 60 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So if you're not getting dialed in with that, you are going to run into some issues.
What do you find, Dr. Linda, that it's the most common cause? What interferes with people's sleep most often than not in your practice? What do you see?
The biggest thing, I always go back to the stresses, the 3 stressors of life, the physical, chemical, emotional. Over 90% of your diseases or conditions that you're experiencing now are always going to go back to that. The physical stress is like, you're not resting enough. The chemical stress is, what are you putting in your body, on your body? What are you breathing in? What do you have in your home? There's the EMFs as well. That's an environmental type of stress, what's coming up off of your mattress. You have so many toxins out there. So the big one I see also is like blood sugar issues and gut issues. Those are like the 2 major ones that I see in my practice, as far as this really common. You've got to get your blood sugar dialed in, because if you don't, that's one of the things that wakes people up. The other thing is I see a lot of gut infections. So it's kind of interesting to note that a lot of people, do you recall your dreams? Do you have dreams?
I do, not very often. And when I do, most of the time, I do not recall.
Okay. So, but sometimes people have nightmares. And so you should start tracking this, and people should start tracking this, but there's a rhythm that even at when there's a full moon, we have more parasitic activity in the gut, and that's going to interfere with your sleep. 60 to 80% of your immune system is where? In your gut. Serotonin is very much dependent on your gut health. Serotonin is the precursor for melatonin. So when people start putting that connection, it's just like when their gut starts to heal, so much changes in their body, their overall health, even their sleep, their ability to think. They just feel so much sharper and smarter, and boom, 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 they're just dialed in. So for that, when you were in college and I was in school, I didn't sleep a lot, and my body is paying for it now. So I try to get to bed, kind of early. And that's what I see a lot in the practice. How about you?
So what I see from patients that are complaining of not feeling rested in the morning, the next day, one of the major things, and I want to bring it up today, I want to make sure that if anybody that is listening to this podcast feels that they're sleeping okay at night, but they're still feeling unrested, perhaps or tired in the next morning, one of the major things is sleep apnea. Why is it major? It's major because most of the time you don't have any idea that anything's going on. You're sleeping. In your mind, you go to sleep, you're asleep, you wake up 7 hours or 8 hours after, and you're like, why do I feel so tired? I don't understand. Like, it's like I didn't rest at all. And if that's ever happened to you, especially if you're a little bit on the overweight or obese side, that's a kind of like a correlation. It doesn't always happen together, but if you are overweight, you are at higher risk. One of the things is sleep apnea. What happens during sleep apnea is you are sleeping, supposedly you're sleeping, but then you stop breathing. And after you stop breathing for about 15 seconds, 20 seconds, you take a big breath, right? You take kind of like a gulp of breath, like, and then you stop, you continue breathing, but all throughout you're snoring. That's kind of like the hallmark of sleep apnea. Very loud snoring, and snoring that you stop breathing and then you kind of come to it, but then you snore like really loud and then you continue snoring, right? So most of the times when I have patients that are feeling like that, it's either they're feeling so tired that they're done feeling so exhausted and they come and see me, or their significant other is bringing them into the office because they cannot tolerate it anymore. They're so done with the loud snores and they're like, get me out of here, basically. So that's a major one. And if you do have sleep apnea, it is important not only in the sense of feeling rested the next day, but it also impacts your heart. It impacts your mind. It increases the risk of hypertension, high blood pressure. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I diagnose sleep apnea. Many times if I have a patient in clinic and the patient has high blood pressure and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and the patient's doing all these things and the blood pressure is not coming down, many times the sleep apnea is contributing to the blood pressure.
And if you tie that all together, it's coming back to the stress. When you're under stress, the physical, chemical, emotional stress, it raises cortisol levels up. So when cortisol level goes up, you also have the sister hormone, we say the insulin that goes up as well, or, call it the sister, the cousin. So those are some of the reasons. And, when a person's, like you were saying, high blood pressure is due to what? It's the adrenals. You have overactive adrenals. So then what do? When you have those overactive adrenals, that's where the beauty of adaptogens come in. The beauty of stress management comes in as well. So it's really, really important, I think, to make sure that people get that dialed in. It's just like, that's why we go back to stress. Which one is it? Physical, chemical, emotional. It's gonna always go back to one of those. So I definitely, I see that. So I think that's why it's so important as practitioners to have those conversations with patients. Like you were saying, a lot of the time, men, because they're heavier, right? It's just like, it's put some pressure on the pathways there, the air passages. So you see that with the men, they can't sleep. But then as women, and look for you to share about this, what about your female patients? Do you notice that it's your younger or older female patients that have issues with sleep?
Actually, both. But what I find is different causes affects each category. For my younger patients, what I see many times is just anxiety galore. The anxiety doesn't let them sleep. And that's what used to happen to me. My insomnia was completely 100% related to anxiety, right? I was so anxious without realizing. I would lay down to sleep at night, and then I'm trying to fall asleep and I'm not able to, right? Now I hear the voice. The voice is telling me, do this, do that. You have 20 things to do tomorrow and you are not prepared, or you're super prepared and nobody's going to show up. And it's telling me all these things, or, your kids this, or your husband, like it tells you the whole, like so many scenarios, so many stories, so many everything. And you're laying down in bed, you're closing your eyes, you're trying to turn everything off. Everything's off in your room, but your mind is driving you insane. It's nonstop. And until you are able to quiet your mind, you won't be able to fall asleep. And that's what kept me up literally at night for 2, 3, 4 hours before. Just the voice, not being able to calm it down.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's what you hear a lot from the younger and the older
My
women
daughter.
too.
No, with the older patients, it's more like chronic pain, restless leg syndrome. I have quite a few patients with sleep apnea. I have quite a few patients with many other, more chronic medical
Hmm.
problems. But the younger patients, I find it's more the anxiety and being
Yeah.
unable to rest because of anxiety or depression.
Yeah. And just not knowing what's coming up. And you know what I see also with some of the women, like, are starting to get into, kind of my age group of women that are like now going into menopause, and we're seeing that happen even younger now. Women in their 40s, early 40s, and then when they start getting into menopause, your progesterone and estrogen levels drop, and those are directly impact your serotonin and melatonin levels. So they're all interconnected. So a lot of times it's looking at what is the whole hormonal connection with this, and our lifestyle connects the hormones. So, I think it's really a big thing. So, do you want to give a few strategies? I know that we're coming up on time here. Some of the strategies that, we told people the importance of sleep. What are some of the common causes of sleep? What happens if you don't get enough sleep? Some of the stats as far as the kids need more sleep. The most sleep comes from the babies when they're first born. I mean, all they do is sleep, right? Like you want to go to someone's house. Oh, I want to see the baby. It's like
They're sleeping.
they're sleeping. Wait till they get a little bit older. But those first few months, they're more asleep than they are awake. Why? Because they're growing so much, and then as time goes on, they need sleep, less sleep, they're more awake. But once again,
Until you're a teenager.
yes,
I
yes.
have a teenager right now, 14, and my boy sleeps like 16 hours a day.
Oh, he's probably pretty active, right? Is he
He's
playing?
very
Yes.
active. And not only that, but we were comparing pictures just last year, literally just a year ago. He was probably as tall as like my shoulder.
Yeah.
If you look at a picture with him now, he towers me like a whole head now in
Wow.
1 year. But he sleeps so much.
Yeah, well, that totally makes sense, though, because all that growth hormone that's being released. So he's growing, and it's just like that's a growth spurt. That's major. That's why, sometimes parents need to understand too. It's like, oh, he's just lazy or she's just lazy. It's like, no, they're going through that change. Yeah. And maybe their body needs to heal of something, so we have to learn to listen to our bodies. So
Listen to your body is a huge one.
yeah.
So some of the natural techniques that I share with my patients, one of them, and probably one of the most important one that I say, it's the blue light from your electronics. That's like major because everybody uses electronics nowadays in bed, right? Before we used to have a desktop computer and the desktop was in the office, so it wasn't a big deal. But now with smartphones and telephones and TVs and everything in the room, people are watching something in their phone, a video, and then they turn on the TV and then they do all these things. And then they read with an e-reader, right?
Yeah.
And then they say, okay, I'm ready to go to bed. They turn everything off and they're like, why can't I sleep? Well, it's the blue light, right? Every electronic has a blue light. And that blue light literally directly goes into your eyesight, and it's designed to keep you awake. Okay, so by you literally, if you're tired, if you're sleepy, and you start looking at the screen, your phone, there's two things. One, you start focusing on something else instead of focusing on resting, so it takes your attention away from falling asleep. And second, it's that blue light that says, hey, it's daytime, you shouldn't be falling asleep, you shouldn't be feeling sleepy. So that's one thing. The other thing is exercise. If you're having difficulty sleeping at night, and you exercise kind of like in the evening or at night, maybe an hour before you're ready for bed, that also helps sleep a little bit faster. Breathing techniques, relaxation, meditation, it's a huge one for me. And that's actually what helped me the most in falling asleep faster. If I meditate or take deep breaths or just concentrate on relaxing my body, relaxing my mind, relaxing everything, and letting the day go, the day already passed, I have to rest and I have to get ready for the next day. And by doing that, maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most, I feel like I fall asleep 2 hours sooner. First of all, I fall asleep that quick instead of being awake for 2 hours. And then the amount of time that I sleep so good. I rest so well.
Yeah.
What about you?
Those are some good ones there. Like you were saying, one, I always tell them, what's the bedroom should only be for two S's, sleep and sex. So you don't want to have the electronics. You don't want to have a television. You don't want to have your dog in there, because I know some people, there's like their dogs sleep with them. I'm like, what? I don't get it. How can you get a good night's sleep? But a lot, you always have to look at, what did I do during the day that's impacting my sleep at night? So I really like to look at that entire picture. For me, and for some people, I know some people do better with exercising at night. If I exercise at night, I'll be up. I can't do that, so it stimulates me. So I like to get my exercise first thing in the morning, because it actually does wake me up. And it also helps me sleep better. But simple strategies like you mentioned, make sure that your room is blacked out, that you have, and you're going to be moving here to the desert. So you're going to notice that, when the sun is up, it's just like, okay, it's 5 something, I need to get up. So a lot of times, if you say that your body's going through healing, and like, I'm going to go to bed at 10, because it's best to go to bed before 10 o'clock. And some of people sleep from 10 to 6. Wear something like this to help you sleep, so that you don't get the lights from the natural light if you need that extra rest. But a lot of times your body's on a circadian rhythm that when the sun sets, you want to go to bed within that hour. And when the sun rises, you're going to be up usually within that hour as well. So lavender, you can diffuse lavender. That's another thing that I think is really, really important and popular. Gratitude, like we were talking about. I have a gratitude journal. I have meditation, visualization. You can listen to music, a deep relaxation also. So those are some other strategies. I think a lot has to do, what do you do the hour and two before you go to sleep?
Right.
Yeah.
That impacts so much.
If you were mentioning about the EMF shutting down the computer, actually installing, I want to say, I think it's called Flux, that you install on your computer, so that you're not getting all the EMFs from the computer. But also not to have your phone in your room, and try to not have anything anything like that on. There's actually, I don't know if you've seen those blue blockers, some glasses that you can wear. They're like orange. So we wear those, I've gone through like a couple. I'm like, gosh, I have to order more, because I will wear them as soon as the sun sets, so that if I'm exposed to any of this, you can sleep better. And even at nighttime, try to keep the lights down, and just have, you don't want all the bright lights or the fluorescent, you definitely don't want that. And maybe even for some, decreasing what you're eating before, like 2 hours before you sleep, because that could be another issue.
Any type of caffeine,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For some people, because you could be a fast or slow metabolizer of caffeine. And if you're a slow metabolizer, that means it just stays in your body longer. And it's a stimulant for some people. So everybody's different. So they have to find what works for them. So I would just say, like you were saying, keep the electronics off. Make sure it's dark. Keep what really works well too is keeping your room cold, believe it or not. So I don't know what you set your temperature at, but you actually, the cooler it is, the better it is. You actually have sleep better in the winter than you do in the summer when it's super hot. And if your temperature, most people do right around 72, 76 or even lower. So, and you find a lot of your high achievers do that as well. They get colder.
Something else too, it's trying to have about the same time, like a routine every night. That helps so much. Absolutely. Because no matter if you're doing all these things, if you go to sleep one day at 10, and then the next day at 1 in the morning, and then the next day at 9 o'clock,
absolutely,
there is no pattern. There is no, not a set time, and therefore your body's not going to get used to doing anything at a certain time. One day you're going to be sleepy at 9, and then the next day you're not going to be sleepy until 2 in the morning. So try to be consistent, as much as you can, a consistent bedtime. That helps too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think those are some good some good strategies for people to, you know, to start implementing. So always going back to, well, what's the cause of what's the cause of why I'm not sleeping?
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, the big one with the younger one is the stress. So you talked about beautiful stress management strategies of the gratitude, or if your mind is racing, you know, and then it's also the hormonal of, you know, the food that you're putting in your body, but also as people get older, their hormones, some of the systems start to downregulate. So, you know, but there's other systems that you have to balance out with this. So there's a whole science to that. And it's not as easy as, oh, just take this tea. You know, people say, just take this tea or take melatonin. No, let's figure out what's the cause. What if you have gut infections and you have, like I said, parasites, you know, that, they're more prevalent in that cycle when the moon is out, full moon. So I want you to kind of check that out next time there's a full moon and see how your sleep is. You know, be interested to see how you sleep. So there's a good sign if you probably have some parasitic activity if you have difficulty sleeping at night. So when there's a full moon, yeah.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I will.
Yeah, you'll see a connection there. So
just to finish up really quick, we're coming down to the time for the show. Just really quick, medications for sleep. There are different types of medications. The most common, or one of the most common ones, are benzodiazepines. Okay, benzodiazepines are anything like Ambien, Xanax, Valium. Any of those are benzodiazepines. And the importance of those medications is that, number one, they become addictive. So it's not something that you want to take on a continuous basis. I do prescribe those medications. Most of the time when I prescribe it, it's for patients that have panic attacks when they fly, or, you know, they are going through a very difficult situation where they're taking finals and they can't, something like that, something short term, nothing that is going to be on a consistent basis. Because if you take it one day, it's okay, right? Not okay, but if you take it one day, it makes you fall asleep. But if you take it on a consistent basis, number one, your body won't be able to fall asleep naturally on its own. It's going to become more complicated because you're taking that away from your body, like the natural relaxation and falling asleep on its own. But two, you can get hooked on those medications. So that's one of the medications that is commonly, very, very, very commonly used for insomnia, but it's not one that I like to prescribe at all. The other medication is trazodone. So if anybody out there listening, anybody's taken trazodone before, I tell my patients, trazodone used to be an antidepressant medication. And what happened back in the day was they would prescribe it for people with depression, and then they will find that the depression was okay, not getting better much, but people were sleeping better. So now we give it as a insomnia medication, perhaps. And if I'm going to prescribe something, I will probably prescribe trazodone over anything else. And that's the one that I used to take back in the day too. And if you take it about 30 minutes before you fall asleep, it helps somewhat, but it's not natural. It does have side effects. The side effects are anything from suicidal thoughts, ideations. You can have headaches. You can have somnolence. You can have fatigue. You can have so many groggy feeling in the next morning. So there is side effects associated with it. It's better to do it naturally. And then the other ones would be something like antidepressants, like Zoloft and sertraline or escitalopram or Paxil. Any of those antidepressants are sometimes commonly used for sleep problems too. And most of the times is if anxiety or if depression, it's causing that insomnia as a byproduct, right? Because your mind is racing and you can't slow it down. So they give you that medication so you feel better overall during the day, but also you can fall asleep faster at night. Now, the side effects of those medications include low libido. So you lose your sexual drive, or you can lose your sexual drive, headaches, weight gain, which is a major thing for females. And that's a conversation that I always have with my female patients when I'm going to prescribe them something like an SSRI, because it contributes to weight gain. It can give you irritability. And so the side effects, you do have to really outweigh the benefits against the risks if you decide that taking a medication is what you want to do because any of the medications that are prescribed for sleep will come with side effects.
Yeah, it's kind of, it reminds me of that commercial when they come up with the commercial medication about, you know, it helps for this, this, and this, but then it has the long list of, but it can cause this, 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 and this. So once again, it's about, you know, I love how you encourage your patients to, this is just the Band-Aid for right now, but let's
That's
really
what it
get
is.
to the, let's stop needing the Band-Aid. Why are you needing the Band-Aid? Because you keep falling. Well, then why are you falling? You
We'll
know,
fix the
looking all
problem.
that. Yeah, it's always getting to the root cause. So. All right. Well, I think they have enough strategies to work with, you know, to optimize sleep, and you know, in turn, when you optimize sleep, you know, you're impacting your overall health in a super positive way, and you're happier too, and more productive and more creative. So,
And
yeah,
you look better.
exactly.
You
It's
look
called
better.
beauty sleep for a
Beauty
reason.
sleep.
So, yeah. All righty. Well, that sounds wonderful.
All right. I hope you guys found this very beneficial. We will see you guys next week. We will have, is it next week that we have the
Yeah,
guests?
yeah, we have a guest next week, so they can stay tuned for that, as we'll post information in regards to that.
That's going to be pretty exciting, pretty amazing.
Mhm.
So we will
Yeah,
see you all next week. And thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Dr. Linda Marquez, for
of
being with
course,
us once
all the
again.
time. All
All
right,
right.
we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.